I'm 94 and my doctor doesn't like that I'm not on more medication. He flipped through my chart, paused, then looked up like something didn't add up. Margaret, what are you doing differently? That question stuck with me, because the truth is I wasn't trying to do anything special. I don't follow diets. I don't count calories. I don't spend money on supplements that come in fancy bottles. And I definitely don't wake up thinking I'm going to live to 100. But I'm still here, living alone, cooking my own meals, getting up without calling anyone for help. And I've seen people a lot younger than me struggle just to stand up from a chair. So if I'm not doing anything special, then what is it? I sat there in that exam room thinking about it, and the only honest answer I had was this: I eat the same kind of food almost every day. He didn't say anything right away, just nodded slowly, like he'd heard something like that before, but didn't expect it from me. And that's when it hit me. I didn't always eat this way. For most of my life, I ate like everybody else. Quick, convenient, and without thinking too much about it. Back then, nothing felt wrong, at least not enough to stop and question it. But looking back now, I can see exactly when things started to change. I kept thinking about those mornings when everything felt just a little harder than it used to, nothing dramatic, just small things stacking up. I'd wake up, pour a bowl of cereal, and feel hungry again an hour later. Lunch was whatever was easy, usually a sandwich I barely tasted. Dinner came out of a box more often than I like to admit. Some nights I didn't even sit down. I'd stand at the sink, eat, rinse the plate, and call it a meal. At the time, it all felt normal. I was working, taking care of the house, doing what needed to get done. You don't question habits when they're convenient. You just repeat them. But sometime in my 70s, my body started pushing back. I'd feel tired in the middle of the morning, like someone pulled the plug halfway. My knees didn't want to cooperate when I stood up. Sleep got lighter. I'd wake up at night and just lie there staring at the ceiling. And I told myself what everyone else says: that's just aging. After my husband passed, things got quieter, too quiet. Cooking, for one, didn't seem worth the effort. So I simplified even more. Easier meals, less structure, more eating just to fill time. One night, I remember standing in the kitchen, finishing a plate I wasn't even hungry for. Not because I needed it, just because I didn't know when to stop. And that's when something felt off. Not in my body, but in the way I was living with it. That feeling stayed with me the next time I walked into the hospital where I used to work for a checkup. I started paying attention in a different way, not to charts or paperwork, but to people. Some patients came in at 70 and already looked worn down. slow steps, tired eyes, needing help just to sit. Then every now and then, someone much older would walk in on their own. Steady, alert, not perfect, but holding together. One woman I'll never forget was 101. She checked in by herself, answered every question clearly, and didn't rush a single step. No one was holding her arm. No one needed to. That didn't match what I thought aging was supposed to look like. I'd always assumed time was the main thing working against us. But standing there watching her, I couldn't ignore it anymore. It wasn't just time. Later on, I started noticing the same pattern outside the hospital. A neighbor of mine, Eleanor, was in her 90s too. Nothing fancy about how she lived. No special diet, no routines. She talked about like they were rules. But she ate slowly, ate simple food, and she stopped when she was done. No extra, no mindless finishing just because it was there. That was different from how I had been eating for years, and it made me realize something I hadn't considered before. Maybe the problem wasn't just what I was eating. Maybe it was how I was living with food every single day. I went home that day and did something I hadn't done in a long time. I paid attention to my next meal, not in a strict way, just honest. The next morning, I skipped the cereal. I made a sweet potato instead. Nothing fancy, just something real warm and simple. The first few days felt off. I missed the habit of quick food. I even thought about going back, but I didn't. After a week, I noticed I wasn't hungry an hour later. After a couple of weeks, the mid-morning crash stopped showing up like it used to. Nothing dramatic, just steadier. I didn't change everything else. I still ate normal meals. But I started leaning towards simpler food. Less packaged, less sweet. Fewer things that left me feeling heavy afterward. But the biggest change wasn't what I added. It was what I stopped doing. One evening, I sat down with my plate and halfway through I paused. I wasn't full. I could have kept going, and normally I would have, but I didn't. I put the fork down. That felt strange at first, almost wrong, like I was leaving something unfinished, but I kept doing it. Not every time, just often enough to notice. After a while, I started to feel the difference. Lighter in the morning, sleeping a little deeper, less of that dragging feeling when I stood up. My knees didn't magically fix themselves, but they didn't argue with me as much either. And somewhere in all of that, I realized I hadn't needed a whole new diet. I just needed a point where I stopped. I sat there a little longer after that meal, just noticing how different it felt to stop instead of finishing everything on the plate. Over time, that one decision started to shape everything else. Not overnight, not perfectly, but steadily. I didn't find a miracle food. I didn't unlock some secret nobody else knows. What I found was simpler than that and harder to ignore once you see it. The people I've seen age well don't eat in extreme ways. They don't chase new plans every month. They do a few simple things and they repeat them long enough for their body to trust them. They eat real food. They eat at a calm pace. And they stop before they push too far. If I could go back, I wouldn't try to change everything at once. I'd just start earlier. One meal, one habit. Something I could actually keep. Because the truth is, your body doesn't need perfection. It needs consistency. I'm not promising you'll live to 100, but I've seen what helps people get close, and it doesn't look complicated. If you found something in this story that felt familiar, you're not alone. This channel shares stories about life advice, stories about advice from grandparents, and stories about life lessons that come from real lives, not theories. If that's the kind of perspective you value, you can subscribe and stay with us.